Welcome to the Journey Podcast, a show dedicated to health, wealth, and happiness. Join us on the journey as we explore the world your health and wealth make possible.
Welcome to the Journey Podcast. Today I'm joined by Sean Ward. Sean's the founder and CEO of Midtown Capital Advisors, a mergers and acquisitions firm based in Cleveland, Ohio. Born and raised in Northeast Ohio, Sean attended St. Ignatius High School and continued his Jesuit education at John Carroll University. Sean is a husband, father, and deeply engaged member of the nonprofit community in Northeast Ohio. Sean, I'm excited to have you on the show today. Thanks for making some time.
Michael, I'm glad to be here. Thank you for the invitation. This is pretty cool, pretty high tech, and honestly, the first time I've ever done this. So excited to see what we can make today.
Absolutely. I think we should have a good conversation. Looking forward to it.
As always.
So, Sean, you've gone from banking to accounts receivable management to mergers and acquisitions. What do you feel was the most pivotal moment for you in your career?
Yeah, that's a loaded question. And I'm going to go into the business or the work I did that's not on my LinkedIn, right? That kind of gives you a little peek under the covers because, banking, the AR management to M&A might not seem like a logical jump to most, but it all has ties, right? And it goes back to kind of my blue-collar upbringing. So mom and dad, not college educated. Dad has a small business today, but back then when I was a kid, my dad is a pipe fitter. So he makes rooms hot or cold. And, mom worked for a doctor's office and did whatever she needed to do. But part of that, she also had a paper route that she introduced me to. And I was in fourth grade. Now that I have a third grader, I think back. But I learned early on, hard work, customer service, collections, kind of other things you have to do to be successful in a business. But be successful in general, right? Some of these staples and the things that I do today, I can go back to the paper route, and waking up early. I was up really early today. Used to wake up before school, stuff the papers, and we'd go up to the front door, right? So I can honestly look back at my career, starting with the paper route, into the restaurant industry, then I get into college and I start working at the bank, and then, that's where my professional career takes off. But I had really wonderful people coaching me, mentoring me along the way. Not outside my parents, but, I was an athlete growing up. So I had literally some really great coaches. And then, people I could trust to give me good responses and good, honest feedback to guide me at pivotal moments. What do I do? Oh my gosh, I'm at this moment. I need someone to talk to, right? And at some point, your parents aren't the people you can ask those questions to, when it comes to professional life. There isn't one pivotal moment. It's a series of pivotal moments.
So can you elaborate on that one? I find that generally speaking, people go through phases in their life where they know what's important to them, but that important thing changes as your circumstances around you change. So, husband, father, growing up in the Catholic faith, how do you think that ties into where you are today, right? Making the jump from banking to M&A with a stop at A&R, right? Very different careers. I'd love to hear kind of how you made the decision to take the leap, launch an M&A firm.
Kind of by accident. The sport of golf has always been important to me. I always wanted a job where I can golf, call it work. Simple as that. And in the banking world, it was sales. So you had to get out and meet people. And what a wonderful vehicle, the golf outing. So I was playing golf with a friend who I've golfed with many times. And he's like, Sean, you know everybody. Find me a business to buy. Next hole, tell me about that business you want to buy. And by the time we're done golfing, I have a profile. I make 2 phone calls on the way home from the golf course, 2 accountants. I have an opportunity. There you go. My M&A experience, my M&A career blooms, or at least the light begins to shine. And I go through this process. This is 2 summers ago. And it felt very right. Not only did I locate the business, I was able to underwrite it, something I did many, many, many times as a banker in a lot of different capacities. And and then I put the team together. So we made an offer and we didn't get the business. It was a big failure. But to me, failure is just conceptual, right? There's so many learning moments in that. Then I said, oh gosh, this is it, right? And I was always, every 3 to 5 years, I had a different position within the bank. And it wasn't because I don't know, I'm interested in a lot of things. And I always wanted to go to do something more and more and more. So once I got good at something, I wanted to do something else. And I thought that was natural. And through my career, I always just let my bosses know what I wanted to do next. And I'm just open and honest with them. And then they would help me, right? And so I have a lot of managers like that, and I still stay in touch with two today. One of them is a mentor, where I was like, hey, I think I'm going to start this M&A practice. And he's like, you should do it.
Yeah. Well, in the conversations you and I have had offline, I think one of the things I heard from you is you missed the opportunity to, focus on those relationships. Can you tell me more about, as you were thinking about actually transitioning from, I kind of like this idea, to I'm going to launch a firm, what was it that drove you to take that leap of faith?
It's a good question. And I guess maybe stepping back to answer like what drives me, certainly having the family, having a wonderful wife, 3 wonderful kids, got to take care of them, right? So that's like a given one. But I've always been a person who wanted to strive for a little bit more. I grew up in a family of high achievers, a very, very close extended family, Catholic, Irish Catholic family. My grandma was Italian. Their grandfather was Irish on my dad's side, and 12 cousins, most of them older, on the males, and 4 female cousins, all doing wonderful things in their own regard. But being a kind of a product of that environment, growing up, you're always competing. So I've learned that about myself, is that I like to compete, and I take that into business, take that into the charity work that we're doing, and it's friendly, and it's a way for me to just kind of find that old athlete that wants to compete on stuff. But for my business owners that I work with today, finding that why, finding the reason to do what I do, to wake up every morning, is that I'm of service. And that's what drives me every day. I like being of service. I really do. And it wasn't that I just learned it. I did learn it a lot going through Ignatius and the Jesuit principles, but I like helping. I mean, I think that's human nature in some regards, right? But today I can talk to a business owner, and I could see my parents in a lot of these business owners that I'm helping. So that was kind of like these aha moments all clicking together, saying, wow, not only do I have the technical background that I learned from the bank and how the financial instruments work, I have the interpersonal relationships that I've made by being involved in the community, and now I can tie them all together. And those together gave me what I needed to say, this is it. And I was working at a company that was gracious to allow me to kind of bloom this idea. The owner of the business saw the value, saw what I saw, and allowed me to do it while also working another job, right? But I was open and honest with him, just like I was with all my other bosses, my other people that I worked for, and what I wanted to do. And it's kind of like me forecasting that I'm not going to be here forever. Like, know that. I'm building towards something. And this finally now it's my own. And it's very, very different. And I'm experiencing new challenges every day, but loving it and having fun every day.
Yeah, so I want to pull on a thread there, the idea of wanting to help people. I think what's unique about Midtown is that you're filling a gap in the market. Tell me about the gap, why it exists, and how you're stepping in to help these folks who are going through transactions that are going to be some of the most consequential decisions that they make from a financial standpoint in their lifetime.
Yeah, and I would love to tell you about that. The clients I worked with at the bank were small business owners. and you can put parameters around that, and everyone seems to define it in their own way. But I would say a closely held business, right? Revenues typically would be under like $20 million, $15 million. The sweet spot that I keep seeing is companies that are either multi-generational, that have no heirs left, or their heirs don't want the business, and they're at retirement age. And it is, right. They've made money on this business. They put their kids through school. They've lived a lifestyle that they wanted, and now it's the biggest liquidity event of their life. And I walk into it just like it's another day because I've seen thousands of these. So I have a calmness to me, and I've seen deals go crazy left and right, and deals blow up for a lot of reasons. So I have just a lot of experience that I bring to the table that these business owners need to successfully liquidate. The market I'm playing in has traditionally a low success rate of closing. Third of them, half of them don't even close.
Why is that?
I truly think the established process for a small business owner to sell is somewhat broken and needs to be fixed. And there's also a lot of quality advisors out there who ignore this segment because of the risks that are inherent to it, right? A lot of skeletons could be in the closet for a small business owner. If you're not in tune to underwriting off of tax returns, you might not see things that you would normally catch, right? An accountant, third-party accountant, isn't reviewing the financial statements. They might be preparing the tax returns, but it's not full of notes and details about every single nook and cranny of the business. There's no audit being occurred. What you see is what you get. Can you believe the owner across from you is honest? And there's no skeletons in there, right? And that's part of my underwriting as a risk manager, right? I learned that back in credit days, had some wonderful credit folks around me that are still in the market today working for banks that I run into in my deals that I was trained from, right? So that, to me, gives me a marketing advantage against my competition, which on the lower end is a business brokerage. That's what I am, a business broker. The investment banks can sell equities, and they're much bigger, and they have larger overhead that, hey, that's their model, and they go after. I mean, there's a lot of businesses in the middle market space that is ripe for doing business too. So I'm just kind of in this sandwich, just in between space where the investment banks are super comfortable, the business brokers are kind of in a different model, and then I have this kind of specialty knowledge that I can bring out, and it's working.
Yeah, it's fascinating. We work with a ton of small business owners as well, and they're really good at working in the business. They aren't always as good working on the business and understanding what those dollars, look like and how that speaks to a potential buyer. So I think your ability to digest that for them, help them prepare for that process, and then walk them through really puts them at ease. And again, your willingness to engage in that segment of the market where candidly, they probably wouldn't know where to look without you stepping in and saying, hey, how can I help?
Yeah.
Starting a business, not for the faint of heart, right? I'd be curious if you could briefly describe a time where or an instance that was maybe one of the more difficult parts of your transition.
Not knowing what I don't know. Just figuring out those gaps is a journey as always, and embracing learning.
Yeah.
Something I learned about myself is that I like learning, and there's so many opportunities as a business owner to learn. And what do you do in those moments where you run into the wall?
Yeah. And I think
heart rate's going, and you don't know what to do.
I think what's unique about you is that you're willing to be authentic about that, right? You're going to be upfront with people. If you don't know the answer, hey, I don't know the answer, but I'll find out what the answer is, and we'll make sure we've got the right parties at the table to take care of you. Be
resourceful. That was one thing I learned early on. If you don't know it, have like the tool belt, right? And think about all the people you know who could help you out, right? I was telling a story on the way down here about my dad, how, he is one of the best, but also, non-traditional businessmen, because he didn't have this $1 million enterprise, but he's a heating and air conditioning contractor. many people's houses he heated during the winter when the heat went out, or cooled in the summertime when it's blazing out there. A lot of favors to bring in, right? Do the right thing up front when you need it to come back. It does come back and comes back tenfold. And that's kind of the model I've taken in my business. So do the right thing up front. Give advice. I don't need to take a retainer to give some quality advice to someone who I get in front of because it's Michael Baker's client. It's, you name it, Nolan James' client. It's a friend of the friend, and you're going to do the right thing. And it has a way of working itself out. Yeah.
So on the flip side, right, oftentimes when we take that leap of faith, there's also unexpected perks or benefits. What's something, since founding Midtown Capital that surprised you in a positive way?
I have a lot of cheerleaders out there who want to see me succeed. And a lot of people looking at me that I didn't realize were watching me. Now I put myself out there on LinkedIn, and it's in my marketing plan. I haven't always been super I'm very outgoing, but not out front in like the traditional social media world, right? Where I feel it's not very authentic. You use the word authentic. I try to live a authentic life, right? Existentialism, have you heard of that topic? So I learned that at John Carroll from a college professor. I was like, that makes sense. Yeah, we all have decisions to make, and it's up to us to make those decisions or live with the wrong ones, right? And business is totally like that. Sorry, I kind of digressed on that, but
no, I think it's helpful, right? A lot of people willing to cheerlead for you and support you. What do you attribute that to? When you think about that and that being a positive surprise for you, how do you think you came to a place where you make this big leap and there's abundance of people that are willing to support you, help put you in a position to be successful?
Yeah, I mean, just doing those good deeds over and over again. State Club is a big part of that. Having a nonprofit organization that brings people together for the greater good exposes me to a lot of new faces. People ask me what I do for a living. I say I'm in the people meeting business at the end of the day. And, then I like to connect those people, right? So I learned early on, I read Malcolm Gladwell's book, The Tipping Point, and, in the sense that 80% of the work gets done by 20% of the people, and of those 20%, there's three types, and one of them is a connector, right? Someone who just has this inherent ability to remember faces, names, people, places, and spots, right? And I have that. So I get to apply that into my business, every day. So yeah, it was a leap of faith, if you will. Like, I have these skills, I have these resources, I have these people who want to see me succeed. Like, you go through and you see all these entrepreneurs as a service provider, and you're kind of like, do I have these skills? Oh my gosh, I do. Now what do I do with them, right? Let's go apply it. Let's practice. Let's fail. Let's embrace failing. And that was it too, right? That's a monumental moment of failure is conceptual. Imagine if you lived in like Ukraine or somewhere where there's war.
Yeah.
Life's a little bit different. So let's go freaking start a business and see what happens.
Yeah. Stakes are a little bit different on this side of the pond. And speaking of stakes, I don't think we can just pass over. You mentioned the State Club.
Yeah.
That's something near and dear to both of our hearts. Can you tell me a little bit more about State Club, the origin, and where it is today and what you see the future for it?
Yeah. State Club was a little idea that Nolan started, Nolan James, went to Ignatius together, and he brought the first group of people together over a steak dinner. And it was guys from high school, college, that we didn't, I guess we were like the old millennials. So Facebook was not a thing until we were like in college. And at that point, I was like, whatever, I just didn't embrace it. So it was a way for us to connect, just like old friends. And a lot of us were doing business and starting on our career and building out a network, right? And I learned that at Carroll. Again, I keep going back to my roots, but I learned about networking. You think about all the dots you collect through networking. So people meeting. And then you start connecting those dots. Now you got a network, right? Think about a spider web. And that web is like a mesh. And you can use it to your advantage and make your network, right? And so that was really the crust of it was let's fill the room with quality people. We were industry specific at the beginning because, hey, I didn't want any more bankers in the room. Don't want any more lawyers. We had, a few accountants. We knew we needed more than one wealth manager. There's a lot of, different reasons for that. But this little idea of just getting together for a steak dinner has, it kind of quickly started to grow. And we decided to layer in a charity aspect to it and just basically mark up a dinner. And we would negotiate a really awesome steak that no one else would be able to get because we're ordering 30, 40 of them, right? Economies of scale. And allowing the restaurant and the chef to show off. And then we would just share that and say, hey, here's our friends. We both had a lot of friends and building our business network. And the steak was the hook, right, if you will. And people loved just coming for the steak. And then all of a sudden we decided to raise money for a charity because one of the members in the group was asked if Steak Club wanted to buy a table at their charitable event. And we're like, Steak Club's not even a thing. That's what we tell ourselves. That's what we tell our wives we are, right? We're going to Steak Club, honey. And but that was like kind of one of the pivotal moments. And we decided that year to have a golf outing. And then we eventually incorporated as a 501c3. So that was 2018. And then we had the first iteration of board of directors. And that board has grown and changed a bit since then. And the organization has grown and changed a lot. We can have envisioned, what it is today is nothing that we could have just sat down and wrote down on a piece of paper and then said, let's go do this. It's just grown organically through the people in the group, right? Finding passions, people's passion projects, and giving them a vehicle to do good, right? And that nuance of networking is now not networking. So it's like we're bringing people together, and now networking is a byproduct. At the beginning, it was the reason. Now it's really secondary to what we're doing. We have just had our first cohort of members. As you know, we're part of the membership committee. We have 36 some odd professionals in Northeast Ohio and Columbus who are paying members of the Steak Club Foundation, and they're stakeholders. They are committed to the mission of bringing people together to do good. And that's it, right? And you keep bringing people together, and passionate people who are connected in business can do a lot. And I think post-COVID, people realize, and technology helps a ton with leveling the playing field with making an impact. And so we're bringing people together. We're doing a lot of good in Cleveland, Akron, and Columbus, and we're spreading. It's a matter of time before we add another city to that list, and we just keep the same playbook and don't overcomplicate it. Right? Just have fun, and when you're doing good, there's really no failure.
Yeah. Right? I think when I think about the Steak Club and all that we do, right, I've been a member now for a number of years, and networking is a core part of what you and I do, right? But I find myself often walking into networking events thinking, how can I hit a few people, hand out a few business cards and check the box, right? What was really unique was the first time walking into that Steak Club event, we were actually curling at the Shaker Skating Club, and came away from it thinking, these are the kind of people that I want to spend time with, not just in a professional sense, but just good quality people that are focused on the right things, doing the right things, and, again, just high quality individuals focused on supporting Northeast Ohio. So I think it often goes unsaid at the meetings and at the events that we do, but the work that you and Nolan have done to kind of take it from a few guys around a table having steaks, trying to find an excuse to get away from your wives, to today where we've got a list of hundreds of people that are regularly attending events, whether that's supporting, the unhoused, the underfed, feeding kids in Northeast Ohio, specifically in Cleveland Heights. I know we're excited about the prospect of getting a food bank launched in Cleveland Heights. So good people doing good things in communities that, really need them, I think is a huge benefit. And, I can't say enough positive things about the Steak Club and what we're doing.
Yeah, no, thank you for saying that. It warms my heart every time I hear someone talk about Steak Club, right? We did after we put a conscious effort into making this thing bigger than it was just a group of guys getting together for steaks. And to see where it is today is pretty incredible. And it's just the power of collaboration, power of working with people who want to see some change. Right? It's just, you mentioned Cleveland Heights. there's 110 kids who are homeless in Cleveland Heights. What? Like, it doesn't make sense. So we're going to go try to change that a little bit, right? And those kids are, they're also hungry. They don't have enough school supplies. So we're kind of going all in on Cleveland Heights right now as one of our projects. We're cooking down for the homeless in Akron. We have a great amount of new service projects going down in Columbus. And again, it's people getting together. Maybe it's that 20% of high achievers that we're looking for that kind of bubbled up. And it's like, good resonates, bad doesn't. That's just, again, so we just kind of ride that wave. It will make a bigger impact, and it's just going to continue to grow and grow and grow and grow. And imagine if every 30 people, or all the 35 members in the group today, all had their own little thing going that mimics Cleveland Heights or Akron or, what we have going on in Columbus.
Yeah, the strength in numbers is important, right? We can make a larger impact by finding the people that are looking to do something and giving them the tools and the resources to be able to invest in that.
Yes. And now we're overlapping charities. So we always saw that as a potential and saying, all right, we have resources here and resources there and people here and charities there and doing this. And now we're interweaving those dots, right? And before it was, for me, Connector was just on an individual basis. Now we're doing it in business, and for charity, it's just very, part of what I love to do and can't help but doing it. Like the woman in Akron that we support from the homeless charity, I reached out to her about just being a gap, right? We were called, State Club was called for an emergency situation for a family that didn't have a place to sleep that night. They needed money for a hotel, swipe a card, right? And we got called. We're in that mix. What? Like we are, because we're put ourselves there. We're intentional about it. And, but we aren't necessarily set up to be that emergency organization, but we know one. So we called her, and she's like, I'm going through Summit County to solve this exact problem. So she's already working on it 40 miles down the road.
Yeah.
How can we just connect those dots? And we are. So we do it, and that's the right thing to do because we can.
Yeah, I think what's really cool, so at Journey, we talk about the 4 pillars of wellness being financial, spiritual, mental, and physical, and how none of those pillars can operate independently. They're all reliant. And so what I think is so cool is when you think about what you do professionally, you think about State Club, and you think about your personal network, right? They're all interconnected. It doesn't work. You don't necessarily have the success that you've had in the early parts of, Midtown Capital if you don't invest the time in building out your network through State Club Foundation. You don't necessarily have an inclination to go buy that expensive steak dinner if you're not building a career path in banking early on, right? And so how all of those things connect, I think has a really nice parallel to how we help people think about the way that their finances allow them to support their physical wellness, their mental wellness, and spiritual wellness. And, spiritual wellness can mean a lot of different things to a lot of different people. At Journey, we really sort of define it by what is your purpose, right? And you've talked a little bit about that. Simon Sinek talks about starting with why. If you were to define what your purpose is in one sentence, what would you?
I'm here to connect people. I figured that out about myself a long time ago. For whatever reason, I can remember and then connect, and it just seems natural. And, people make up businesses and people, do the things that are good. And for me, I enjoy doing that so much that, hey, if I can help 2 friends make business together, awesome. It's going to come back sometime. I don't need it to come back, but that's the right thing to do right now, so we do it.
Yeah. So as a husband, father, and entrepreneur, there's a lot of demands on your time, right? I'm not a big believer in work-life balance. I think that's sort of a misnomer. I think of it more like a pendulum, right? Sometimes you're going to need to pour more into the business, but you need to make sure that pendulum swings to the other side as well. So when you think about getting this business off the ground, how do you make sure your family's on board? What sort of conversations have you had? But also how do you make sure you're allocating the time to spend time with your kids who, candidly aren't going to be living at home forever?
Yeah. I'm a very trusting wife. We'll start with that. She trusts in me and believes that I can succeed. And I had a good friend tell me that, to be a successful entrepreneur, you have to be stupid enough to believe you could succeed. And I said, I'm plenty dumb. Always home for dinner, 5 o'clock, 5:30, family dinner time. I have, I understand the importance of that in a balanced of healthy family lifestyle. That interactions over dinner, even though every kid's eating something different and it's chaotic at times. But that's definitely one thing. Less sporting events. My kids are starting to do sports, so I was a track coach for a bit. I got fired from being our volleyball coach by my daughter after first practice because she said I yelled too much. I'm like, my defense, you were the only girl's name I knew, so I would have been yelling at everybody had I known everyone's names, and I was more saying like, get your knees down and all that stuff. But yeah, I guess the great part about being an entrepreneur is that I control my time, full autonomy. And so I always wanted a job at the bank where I could have some autonomy, never full autonomy, because you have commitments you have to make. But now, I take my daughters to school every morning. We have characters that we do on the way to school, right? We have awesome time to bond, and that's like take dad hat off, put on entrepreneur hat, and go, right? And 9 to 5, I'm running hard, and then the kids do a pretty good job of reminding me, like, Dad, you're looking at your phone, put it over there. So get kind of good at training myself, had the kids helping me train me, and just be in the moment, and it's hard sometimes when you're working a deal and the phone's ringing and you got client who really needs you and the dogs need to be fed, and there's whatever's happening, and you just have to you mentioned just the physical aspect of well-being and the spiritual aspect of it. I take good care of my health now. I haven't always, and so I can be primed for stress, right? And learn about your body, learn about how our body works, right? And I knew I was going to put myself through a tremendous amount of stress starting a business. I don't take normal hours, right? I love Elon Musk's hardcore attitude, right? I'll never be like him, but I do admire that at the way he goes about working. It's part of who he is. So when you have a free moment, what do you do?
Yeah.
So,
when you work in a professional environment, it's inevitable that sometimes your 9 to 5 is going to creep into that 5 to 9. Can you think of a time where you intentionally set aside the business, set aside an opportunity to invest in your family, your friends, and, what was your feeling coming out of that?
Yeah, I think it's not just one moment, but, I rarely go to happy hours or evening events anymore. If I do, I'm rarely, I'm projecting those out weeks in advance. So there's knowledge, so there's not surprises. Just kind of being there is so important. And these kids, children, they want your attention, and they're only little for so long, and I remember being a little kid, being bored and wanting something to do and something to play with. And, so I kind of, you can see yourself in your kids sometimes, right? In the way they act, and, good or bad. And, so I think, for me, it wasn't just it's not just one time, but it's just a repetitive nature of it. And I'm sure I'm going to have, I was just down in Tampa, Florida, and I told my client I can't go. My daughter's spring concert was last night. And, he's like, I really, 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 really want you there. Tell my wife over dinner, and she's like, you should go. I'm like, spring concert, babe. We gotta, this is all gonna happen, She just lost her 2 front teeth, So this is the spring concert where she's whistling with her, So we had it all on video. So technology, allowed me to be not there, but close, So I was able to watch it last night in the hotel room and be able to communicate back to my daughter how proud I was of her. Then I'll see her tonight and I'll make her sing all the songs again, right?
Yeah.
So that stinks, but having a family that's my wife understands, they're like, all right, business does have to trump sometimes.
Yeah, and I think having the support of your family and communicating about that and having an open dialogue with your family gives you the freedom to, to take that trip down to Tampa. But knowing that we're in a world where you can sort of dial back the time, right, take advantage of recording, so on and so forth. And because you spend so much time pouring into your kids, I don't think that's a moment that will stick out. So I think that's really important. It's something we talk to our clients all the time about, is it's inevitable that you're going to have to make some sacrifices at times, but you need to focus on the now as much as the 20 years from now. And I think you do a really nice job of that.
Thank you.
So, much of our conversation today is really centered around purpose, why it's important to identify what your purpose is and then make sure your actions align with that. What advice would you give to somebody that really hasn't found their purpose yet?
Go take long walks in the woods and find it. That was part of my journey. I like hiking, I like being outside. Do the things that make you happy, that are healthy first. Definitely understand your body better, how things work. I think it's just incredible how we all go out through our days and don't really think about how it actually happens. So if you start eating healthy and you learn that, serotonin production starts in your stomach, maybe I'll be happier if I just eat better. But yeah, I tell people all the time, my kind of happy place was, going for a hike in the woods and just being able to clear my mind of everything, and just even if it's a 20, 30 minute escape. But ask a lot of questions, ask why, challenge yourself, find mentors that challenge you, that you trust. It's going to be a hard reality sometimes. And at the end of the day, if there's a roadblock in your way, it's typically you telling yourself something. And you just got to break through that.
Yeah, we find that a lot when we're having conversations. One of the parts of our financial planning process is having people identify what is your mission, whether that's a family mission, personal mission, what are your core values? If it's just about how do I build my balance sheet, why is that? Or if you say that, it comes out of your mouth and you pause and think, that doesn't sound the way that I want it to sound, right? Giving them the tools to take the time, identify, these are the things that are important to me, and then providing the tools around that to say, this is how you can execute on that vision. I think it's so important. If we don't understand why we're doing what we're doing, there's not a lot of meaning to look back on. And you have a legacy. Whether you plan for that legacy or not, you're going to have one, right? And so I think it's really important to be purposeful, to make sure that you are comfortable with what you're doing on a daily basis, and that it is actually driving you towards a desired outcome that has meaning beyond the balance sheet. So, again, I think thinking through where you've been, what you're doing, and the opportunities that are out there, how can people get a hold of you? Where can they find you? Anything you want to promote?
Yeah, so I have a few ways. I have a website, www.midtowncapadvisors.com. You can find me on LinkedIn, Sean M. Ward. There's a few Sean Wards out there. There's a Sean Ward that does M&A for another firm in town. He's a little bit more established, but we get confused a bunch. Personal connections obviously are great. But yeah, people want to find me, hit me up on LinkedIn. Always down for a phone call. Like I said, I'm in people meeting business, so I'm always down to have a conversation to learn about someone and learn who they're trying to get to. And again, I said it's part of my inner purpose that I've discovered that I'm good at that. So I'm going to keep doing that. And I just appreciate you guys bringing me on the podcast. This has been a great experience for sure. And I appreciate you highlighting some of the points in my career. You don't get to always hear things about yourself like this. So it's nice to hear others say it. And, just appreciate your friendship, right? You and I met through State Club and through just, one of those nights you're passing the business card, and here we are, how many years later, trying to spread some good word. So. Yeah,
absolutely. Well, Sean, I appreciate you coming on today. I know it's sometimes difficult to take the time out of the day, but really appreciate the opportunity to have the conversation today. And, another area I guess I'll highlight is if you want to meet Sean, come to State Club. Plenty of opportunities to, invest in the community, or if you're just looking for a really good meal, we can do that for you as well. So again, appreciate your time. Hope you have a great rest of the day, and be well.
Yeah. Thank you so much.